How many of you can accurately predict the future? How many of you think that you have the knowledge and ability to expose those predictions to the public on a mass scale? How would you do that? Would you write a book? Would you write a song? Would you paint your predictions? Make a movie? A television series? I got it. A video game, right? But what would be the intent of doing this? Would this be a way to warn people about things to come? To desensitize them to the stresses of incoming events? To give those who are awake an edge in the real world? Or is it intended to normalize evil? To get people used to immorality? To accept defilement and embrace the darkness? So I want to talk about this because predictive programming seems to be a topic that keeps popping up, and with all the clutter, the things that are being presented to you may seem quite confusing. But we're going to try and straighten that up right now. So what we have here, folks, is a mess. I mean, should we really concern ourselves with the minutia of every single piece of media that is put out? One would be a fool to ignore it all. So, how do we discern the difference between good old-fashioned entertainment from what people label as predictive programming? Because some things are not always what they seem to be. Now, I want to define 3 terms that I believe should be understood when it comes to this subject. Number 1, predictive programming, although it has no official definition, it is a term used to describe reoccurring elements, intentionally placed in media as a reference to a future event, usually tragic events. These are subtle references that are intended to subliminally desensitize you so that when the event occurs, your reaction is passive. For example, references to 9/11. If there is any movie, TV show, music out there that has predictive programming in reference to 9/11 prior to 9/11, then that idea didn't work at all. It didn't stop 9/11, no one would have been able to recognize the warning, and it sure didn't sweeten the blow. The only thing that anyone can get from those references today is that perhaps it was a planned event, not a predicted one. And you still have to consider the possibility of coincidence in the equation. Also keep in mind that many artists, producers, creators, they tend to model their work after others, which is why we see many themes repeated. Now, a psychological operation, or a PSYOP, is somewhat different. It's interesting because the U.S. Army provides an overview for the job of a psychological operations specialist. As a member of the Army Special Operations community, the psychological operations specialist is primarily responsible for the analysis, development, and distribution of intelligence used for information and psychological effect. It goes on to state under future careers, the training you receive may prepare you for other fields, such as public relations, sales, marketing, and advertising. Wikipedia has their own definition of this, and it is written that the purpose of psychological operations executed by the U.S. military is to induce or reinforce behavior favorable to U.S. objectives. So what this really is a tactic to communicate selected information in order to influence an audience toward a desired reaction or behavior. And we see this all the time. For example, you want to get people to donate to sick, hungry children, you show them sick, hungry children. You want to get people to stop smoking, you show them people in the hospital, broken down, falling apart, Don't worry, I'll spare you that imagery. Now, there is one more term that is not used that often, and I think this is what some people mean when they discuss predictive programming, and that is the drip effect. Unlike predictive programming, the drip effect does not prepare you for an event. It is designed to mold one's character. In the Oxford Reference Library, the drip effect is defined as, in theories of media effects, the notion that the mass media contribute towards gradual changes in the long term, either in individual attitudes or behavior, example among heavy viewers of television, or in the form of social changes alongside other social forces. I mean, this is really what we're talking about here, folks. Long-term effects, right? You see, it's one thing to have satanic imagery in a music video. It's another thing to have that theme repeated over and over in a very short period of time. So make no mistake, folks, these methods are real. This stuff is out there. Mainstream news uses these techniques most effectively. The trouble I think people are experiencing is trying to interpret if the messages dripped into mass media are intended to simply help us or hurt us. I know people say, well, they want to desensitize us and get us used to things we would normally have difficulty accepting. Yes, that's exactly the point. But keep in mind, folks, none of these things would be possible without us making them trendy. You think it's a coincidence that there are, you know what I'm going to do? I took it upon myself to gather a list of newly released and upcoming films and television series that you may find interesting. So what I have done is I have composed a playlist of movie and television series trailers. Now, I wanted to be a bit creative with this, so I took the titles of each production and listed them in an order that somewhat tells a story with looking just at the titles alone. Take a look. Number 1, High Power. The world is coming close to an end, and a maniacal scientist kidnaps a man's family in order to use him as a test subject, giving him abilities. Why? To save the planet. Number 2, Genesis. Here in a post-apocalyptic setting, the surviving few attempt to use artificial intelligence to save mankind. Number 3, Curvature. No, this isn't a movie about flat Earth, but from the looks of its promotional material, it could be a movie about CERN, as this is about an engineer who travels in time to stop herself from committing murder. Number 4, Perfect. In this sci-fi thriller, a young man enters a mysterious clinic where the patients use genetic engineering to wildly transform their minds and bodies. Number 5, Future World. A young boy travels this future wasteland in search of a cure for his dying mother, in this Mad Max meets Robot Sophia fantasy. Number 6, Assassination Nation. This is a story about a Salem High School student, Lily, and her friends who spend all their time on social media and partying. But all hell breaks loose when the town is targeted by a data hack, and all the townspeople's darkest secrets are exposed. This story quickly turns into a Twilight Zone episode as the townspeople turn on each other and hunt down the culprit. Will Lily and her friends get through the night alive? Number 7, The First Purge. Do I really need to tell you what this movie is about? Number 8, Prospect. A young girl and her father search a remote moon for, guess what? Riches. But this toxic environment wouldn't be enough without a band of dangerous, unwelcoming inhabitants. Number 9, Prodigy. This is a drama, mystery, suspense, sci-fi fantasy about a sweet little redhead girl and a big bad psychologist. The doctor discovers that not only is this 9-year-old a genius, but she has another secret that is more supernatural. Number 10, Upgrade. Gray Trace is left paralyzed after a brutal mugging and murder of his wife. A wealthy inventor offers Trace a chance to walk again with an AI implant called STEM. Trace discovers that the upgrade comes with some special abilities that he then uses to get revenge on the people who murdered his wife. Number 11, Chimera. Now this is about a scientist who loses it and freezes his children alive, as he desperately develops a cure for their genetic disease by decoding the DNA of the Turritopsis jellyfish, a jellyfish that is said to be immortal. Number 12, replicas. Much like Chimera, this scientist uses the latest technology to bring his family back to life. Number 13, the prototype. One film with this title was a trailer released in 2013 about a military experiment running from the FBI. However, it seems that that movie was never released. Now, there are actually 2 movies being released this year with the same name. The first out of the UK that is about a businessman and his colleague who created prototype humanoid. After creating an organic female model, the prototype is underestimated, leading to consequences. The other is a film by Marcelo Guion about an alien conspiracy to take over Earth. A government agent uses a blue liquid created by the aliens that makes soldiers stronger, thus becoming the prototype for the hope of mankind. Number 14, Battle Drone. This is a movie about a group of mercenaries betrayed by the US government who have to fight for their lives against a new army of droids. Number 15, The Beyond. In this sci-fi thriller, you have a team of robotically enhanced astronauts that are sent through a wormhole. When they return from the mission early, the space agency races to discover what the astronauts had encountered. Folks, there were so many films and television shows with these similar themes being released this year that I didn't know where to end it. Netflix is becoming notorious for these types of films and television series, such as Anon, The Innocents, The Rain, Altered Carbon. Now, it would be unreasonable and unwise to assume that every single piece of media is the tool of a dark society of individuals who seek to control and dominate us. A lot of this stuff is being released simply because people want it. They like it. They love aliens, monsters, witchcraft, superhumans. They eat it up. So these types of films will continue to pop up. But this has occurred and does occur. Take Ian Fleming, for example. You know, the creator of James Bond 007. This is the perfect example of the collaboration of the military, the occult, and Hollywood. If you look into the background of Fleming, you'll discover that he was a Navy PSYOPs operative. And several characters you find in the 007 movies are actually based on real people, such as M, Bond's handler, who in real life is Maxwell Knight. Knight was an MI6 spy master and ritual magician who was very interested in guess who? Aleister Crowley. Author J. Dyer has a very informative lecture on predictive programming where he goes through the history of Fleming and the Bond movies, as well as other examples of how this method of mass programming is used. Some of these things are done to prepare us. Some of these things are done to influence us toward a planned objective. Think about people in secret societies. Do you think everyone involved can keep secrets? They are in this organization, they learn things. It's only human to want to share what you've learned. And writing a book or throwing information into a movie is a good way to send that information out without exposing any one person or group. And the society gets to maintain their anonymity. This is why everyone just blames the Illuminati, even though there are dozens and dozens of these types of organizations. It is hard to pinpoint exactly what organization is involved because, one, many people who are in one secret society are in other secret societies. And for many of these organizations, the members don't really have a problem admitting that they are a member. They just won't tell you what goes on in the club. That's what some movies and books are for. So yes, these things are real. They do happen in the media. Trying to figure out which production uses these techniques can be difficult, but books and movies have authors, and looking into their background is a good place to start. And you may find that the truth about what these productions are trying to convey to us isn't as difficult as it seems, because they, in a way, want you to find out. It's like some weird game that they play. Just be mindful, folks, attentive to your surroundings. Notice the changes in the real world versus what is being presented on television, in theaters, and on bookshelves. These things may be full of fiction, but much of fiction is actually based on reality.